So I did a stream the other day, and probably didn't catch it because I think I had 7 peak viewers, but whatever. If you didn't catch it, it was I played a little game called Deadeye Deepfake Simulacrum. Deadeye Deepfake Simulacrum. Very mouthful of a title. DDS. DDS. Let's call it that. So the way that I discovered this game was that one morning I got an email from the developer who sent me a Steam key for it. And that's literally the whole story. I saw the email. I thought it was a spam. I thought it was spam at first, but it didn't get caught. Usually my spam filter catches that stuff, but I looked at it, and then I was kind of looking for something I was like, oh, this is kind of different. It's like, what is a Steam key for a game? Is this going to be something fishy? Is this sort of shady? And then I looked through the email, and there really wasn't. I was looking for, typical scam stuff, like alarming sort of language, like you got to do it now kind of thing, the time pressure. Like phishing stuff, like, hey, click on this link and put in your details, that sort of thing. And there wasn't any of that. It was basically just a couple screenshots of the game, a summary of what the game was, like a description of it, and then at the very top was just a plain text, just copy-paste code for the game. And so I copy-pasted it into Steam, and lo and behold, it worked. It actually worked. So I emailed the developer back and I said, hey, I'm replying because this seems legitimate, and so thank you. They ended up actually replying to me. Oh, the other thing was that the name, I looked the game up, and it's on Steam. It is a real game, and the developer, this is like their first game, at least that they've published under this name. They are also the same email that sent it to me. So everything kind of like, it was weird, and it was unexpected, but everything seemed to check out, and the developer actually responded to me, and they were really nice, and they were really cool about it. So we finally made it to the big time, boys. We're getting free games through email. I'm being sent Steam keys for free. And you know what's so funny? So the reason that I got this game specifically is apparently, according to the dev, they had been recommended my video on They had seen my video on Divine Cybermancy, and because this game, in their words, shares a lot of DNA with they decided to send me a key for it. And I found that very funny because I spent the majority of that hour and 15-minute video ripping that game up and about all the things that I didn't like about it. So I figured, hey, that's pretty cool of them. I'll check it out. I thought that was kind of funny that they decided, due to my video, to send me that. But I checked it out. I booted. I played it. I went through it. I had my first playthrough of it on stream, and it's really fucking cool. It's a really fucking cool game. I like it a lot. Deadeye Deepfake Simulacrum is essentially a top-down immersive sim, which I can definitely see some of the influences from in certain ideas. Like there's ideas it's taking from at least from what I can tell right now. I have how many hours have I put into it? 8.5 hours. I played it for 3 hours on stream, and then I played it for fucking 5 hours yesterday. And so only 8 hours in. Can't say I've seen, and it seems like a game that's quite extensive. It's early access, I should mention. There's a demo, which I would recommend that you go check out. It's early access, and I'm playing the beta. But it feels very extensive. A lot of the ideas that it seems to lift from I are the cool ones, I guess. It seems like I can definitely see like this was obviously made by someone who thinks that game has cool ideas, but they were doing it in a way that's a lot easier to like digest. Like the things that I didn't like about I in very broad terms, gameplay wise, not going to get into the story at all, was just that the game, well, honestly, to be really nitty gritty with it, the enemy spawning sucks. I don't like how it works. And mechanically, there's just... It's like it fails... Yeah, someone wrote a comment on my video. It fails to communicate the way that the game is supposed to be played, sort of. There's a million ways to play I, but it's really easy to pick a bad one. And that was... like why I had such a poor first interaction with it, first playthrough of I, was that like I played it like how I would play any other video game, and I suffered for it. DDS does not really suffer from that problem as far as I can tell. Oh boy, my stomach hurts. I gotta go to the bathroom. All right, where was I? Oh yeah, so it's a top-down game with pretty simple graphics. Not quite ASCII art, but definitely going for like a very simple, like you could pretty much look at almost anything and generally understand what it is, or approximately what it's about to be. It definitely reuses icons for important kind of recurring objects throughout missions. But it has a very strong presentation. It's simple graphics, but with a strong presentation. It has this kind of like bubble TV effect over the whole thing. Just this very subtle, like you're looking at it through. It's got a little bit of like curve to the screen, and it starts by default with scan lines that you could toggle on and off. You can get vertical scan lines too. And it's going for like a simple, clean, easily readable, but pretty stylish sort of aesthetic. The music is wonderful. It's very like chilled out, kind of slow, usually slow. I guess just like electronic music, like ambience, really. Like it's always like raining or snowing, if we're in the outside or something like that. Like heavy atmosphere, even with this very stripped back sort of presentation. Really cool. And then gameplay wise, it's definitely doing its own thing, but I can see the clear inspirations from games like I and other. The only other immersive sim I've really played is Deus Ex, and Deus Ex is definitely a lot more story intensive. I guess I should get into the basically the premise of DDS. It's basically the game opens and you have died. You've died and been brought back to life by a mysterious corporation, but the services to bring you back to life are not cheap. So you are now that you've been resurrected, I'm assuming against your will, you are basically in debt to them. You have a debt of like I think $1 million that you have to pay off to them. And in order to pay it off, you have to become an agent of theirs and complete mysterious missions that involve some sort of espionage, subterfuge, assassination. You're given the basics of the mission of what you have to do and why, but you don't know, like, well, what is the data that was stolen? Who are these people? What does this corporation do? Nothing about it really makes sense. You're in the dark about a lot of it, and it takes on this kind of mission-based structure where in between missions you can go to your apartment, which is it's your base of operations, where you basically just access your computer, and that's where you can kind of do all the in-between stuff, like upgrading your weapons, buying new weapons, investing into like the little like skill categories. They aren't trees. They're basically just you use these little chiplets, these little collectible chiplets as currency to buy a access to, I guess just, yeah, that's what it is, access to a skill folder. They're literally arranged like folders. And there's something like, I want to say like 12 of them, and there's like 3 hidden, there's like 3 ones that are just X'd out. I don't know what the deal is with those. Maybe they're coming in future updates. One of the things I thought was really funny was that one of them, there's like a weird like blank on the screen for the folders for these like skill areas. There's like a blank spot, and I moused over it, and guess what it is? It's the stealth skill. It's the stealth skills literally hidden from you. Really funny. I like that quite a bit. That's charming. It's got I was expecting it to be a lot more basic, I guess. There's the game in general, like much less fleshed out than it feels, at least. Maybe I'll hit a wall or something where, development's pretty much stopped, but, or where get up to where the development is finished. But for the time being, it's very like, it feels very full. Maybe there's even more stuff that I haven't that I don't even know about that's going to be added in the future. But already it feels like a very solid game, like a solid foundation and more. The individual missions themselves, you accept them from your computer, and then you go out to the helipad, and they'll usually be, I think I've counted about 4 different types of missions. It'll be like you have to kill somebody, you have to spike a computer, you have to stand on a spot for a certain amount of time that's somewhere in the level, or you have to I forget what the last one is. Oh, you have to get an item. I haven't like done the basically the collect missions. That's what they're called. I haven't done one of those yet. The gameplay itself is it's kind of one of the hard things about describing immersive sims, is because there's like a lot of stuff going on. Essentially, there's a bunch of different ways that you can go about interacting with the world in order to complete the objective. But one of the big ones is hacking. So there is a combat system. There's like guns with randomly generated stats, which can be upgraded. There are like melee weapons, also with randomly generated stats. And then there's like grenades. I haven't used many of the grenades yet, but same deal. Randomly generated stats, and then even like your body you can switch out. It's called the skeleton. You can basically switch that out, and that gives you different options as well. You can go buy them from the shop at your computer. It's basically, okay, so how would I describe a mission? Hacking is a big part of it, and the hacking is really neat, because essentially there's all of these, everything is a computer. It's like Mega Man Battle Network. Everything is a computer, and if you are if you have line of sight to the computer, you have a little like sight radius around you. If you have line of sight to it, you can basically hit tab to open up your laptop and begin hacking. And you'll basically get like a DOS prompt, or like a command line prompt. And it took a minute. It took a little bit, to like an hour or two, to get used to all the different commands. But there aren't like actually too many. It's basically you hop to a computer to access it, and then you can pull up a graph, which is basically a map, and the map shows you all of the different computers that you have seen and how they connect to each other. So you connect to like a node, for instance, and nodes are pretty much just, they're there for sight. They're there for like remote connection, to establish line of sight. So you can connect to a node, and then you look at the graph, and the graph you can see, oh, there's a node way up further in the level. There's like node 2. So then you can hop to node 2 and then snap your view to node 2, and that will basically make your perspective focused on that area of the map, on that node. And that will let you see more computers and gain line of sight with them, and then by line of sight, you can hop into those computers and you can pull off some very like tricky, like hopping from one place to another. Like it's very expansive the way you can actually like tackle a lot of problems, and this is sort of balanced by the fact that and then like computers themselves, nodes, you can't really do anything besides just hop between them, but there's other things that have like specific commands that you can use. So for instance, you can hop into a camera, you can suspend the camera. You can hop into a turret, you can suspend it. You can make it self-destruct. You can befriend it so that it will basically shoot hostiles for you. Or you can just straight up pilot it and gain control of it. You can hack into enemies. That's a very I thing. Like that's the deal. It definitely, like, when I say like the DNA of I, or how the developer said the DNA of I, one of the cool things about I that I didn't really touch just because there's so much in that game and is that you can like hack into like anything. You can hack into other enemies in I. And one of the things that's like neat, one of the things that I think this game executes a lot better on is that when you want to hack into something, you just write the command. You just write hop into and then the name of the computer you want to hop into. That's it. Like, that's all you got to do. In I, when you want to do that, you have to pull up, like, you want to hack into any single computer or anything, you got to play like a Final Fantasy 1 turn-based RPG combat sequence before you can hack into it. And if you fail in your hack, then you can get counter-hacked and have a seizure and die. And this is while the game is like spawning enemies out of sight from you, who can pick up on your location and just run into you while you're trying to do some gosh darn hacking. And it feels, it's like a lot of things in I, it's just so hard to use. In this game, again, you hop into it. And that's not to say that there's no drawbacks. There's definitely like obstacles. You can't just hop into stuff willy-nilly. Namely, the security system. So basically every level has some kind of an overlord, which is basically the security system that is tapped into every single computer on the map. And the overlord, the first time you hop into a computer, you basically alert the overlord. And you basically have a percentage chance for the overlord to give you a negative penalty. Some sort of, not like Guilty Gear, just but some kind of, so some kind of penalty, some sort of punishment or status effect or something like that. The ones that I've seen are like Dutch. There's like a debuff that's like a Dutch angle, where it's literally like it makes everything tilted on your screen. I've seen it can like flip the camera upside down. It can reverse your controls. It can just black out certain parts of the screen. It can make it so that you can't. It limits your UI, so you can't see like how much ammo you have left in your gun, for instance. It can do things like forcibly discharging your weapon, so you have to reload. You can, and which also creates noise. It can just take like $100 out of your account. It can, what else? I feel like there's some other stuff, but like lots of different penalties that you can incur that can be pretty scary. And you can even hack into the overlord. You can hack into the overlord and suspend that and like turn it off, basically. So even that is vulnerable. But basically, like, so the danger with the overlord, it's basically a risk reward mechanic, because there is I don't know what the game calls it. I'll just call it like the danger level. So the first time you hop into a computer, you start off at, you alert the overlord and you're at like 20% danger, which means you have a 20% chance anytime you hop into a computer to into a new computer. You can freely hop into ones you've already gotten into before, which is nice. But hopping into a new computer, you have a 20% chance to get a penalty. And from there, you basically have 2 new hops. You can hop into 2 more new computers before you go up to 40%. You go up to 40% danger level. Now, you have a 40% chance to incur a penalty anytime you hop into a new computer. And it keeps going up and up. Naturally, so yeah, you can hop into the Overlord and disable that if you can find it. Although it's pretty expensive, and that's the other limiting factor, is everything has a data point cost. So data points are a resource that you get from looking at new computers. So basically, like, being able to detect new computers, getting them in your line of sight. Or I invested in the hacker skill first, which lets you kind of hack stuff through walls, through at least like one wall, basically, between you and the computer. Having that like basically lets me detect and pick up on computers that I can't have direct line of sight with. So you get a bunch of free data points, basically. Doing pretty much anything costs some kind of data points. You'll have to like check. You can, at any point, you can like look up, you can hit like NS to look at your neighbors, which are computers that you can hop into, either via like line of sight or something that you're already connected to. And it'll show you how many data points it costs to hop into. So nodes are pretty much all universally 0. They're all free to hop into. A camera will usually be like two data points to hop into. And it keeps going up. And Overlord is like 8. And then to do more commands with it, from like the computer you're hacked into, you also often costs data points. So you hop into a turret and it'll say like, you can just turn it off, I think, for like 1 data point. You can turn it back on for, I think, free after you turn it off. You can is it confuse? Confuse is something you can do to enemies. I think it costs 3 points. No, it costs 2. And that's where it'll just become hostile to anything. So you can hack into an enemy, confuse them, and then they can go on a rampage if they have a good enough weapon. They go on a rampage and clear out a bunch of enemies for you remotely. And if you've snapped your view to them so they're your perspective character, they can get you a bunch of free data points by walking around and exposing a bunch of computers for you. So that's cool. That'll cost 2 points. To pilot or befriend, I think, will cost 3 data points. And there's skills. So when you unlock a skill folder, you get access to a bunch of optional perks. And you can, I think, have 3 perks from that, and then you can pick 3 different skills. There's a bunch, and every one has perks. Yeah, so perks are one thing. You get 3. There's 3 different perks from each folder, and you can basically pick 3 of them, but you have to unlock extra slots. You only start out with 1 slot for a perk. So I picked the one that lets me hack through walls, but also means that every time I open or close my laptop, it makes a sound which can alert enemies. They'll have some kind of drawback like that to them. And then in skills, you have 3 different skill slots that you can map. Every single folder has 6 or something different skills. So for the hacking one, it's you can get a you will just hit a button, get 5 free data points. But every time you use it, it makes it, oh god, I forgot about the ego points. So ego is basically what you use, the resource you use to use your skills. And different skeletons, the different bodies you can use, have different max ego. I don't think there's any other way to get them back, to get ego points back after you've spent them. So this, I think it's called Data Scraper, is the skill that gives you more data points. You can use that, and it's it only costs 1 ego at first. And the character I'm using has 12 ego points because I leveled them up a lot, but I think the starting body that I had 2. Every time you use Data Scraper, it doubles, I think, in cost. So it goes from 1 data to 2 to 4. There's just it's a really fucking cool game. I've sort of hit a wall where I'm on a mission that is just really, really difficult, and just trying to work my way through it, and I just keep fucking dying. I guess I should talk about that. The game does tell you up front when you first boot it up. It is very difficult, and it tells you, it makes no bones about it. It says, like, you will die a lot, and every time you die, it adds 1 million to your debt. And every day you go by, it adds 1% interest to your debt. It's one of those, I had the feeling, like, I was worried about paying it off at first. You can pay it off from your computer. So you basically have to choose to spend either, I wish there was a way to just spend part of your money, but you have to transfer all of it if you want to pay off your debt. So it's either that or you buy things in the shop or upgrade stuff, basically. Like, that's the choices you have with your money. And at first, I didn't see what the point was in paying off the debt, because it almost seemed like, I'm pretty sure paying off the debt is just a long-term hardcore goal that, like, you're not realistically supposed to be able to do it. Kind of like student loans. You're just like a debt slave. It's just there to basically be a thing. I wasn't quite sure what the point was. Because it adds so much debt so often. Like, I walked into my apartment one time and there was a gift for me, and I opened it and it just added 1 million to my debt. I was like, great, thanks. But there are benefits to paying it off. So, like, I'm pretty sure there's penalties if you don't pay it off enough. Like, if you go too many days without paying off your debt, I think you can get some kind of penalty. And if you pay it off, you get access to new. So I got, like, an NPC showed up outside I was on my way to a mission, and suddenly an NPC shows up outside the helipad, and they basically read me a script that says, "Hey, you need, you've been paying off your debt." They have, like, a script from the company. You've been paying off your debt real good, and you qualified to enter our, like, premium program, and you get to take part in these, like, what are they called? Simulation missions, basically, like, which are like these training exercises, and they're like, they're really easy, and you can make, like, a lot of money from them. I was like, okay, cool. So I did, like, 3 of them, and then on the third one, it's like, it turns, like, you just get kind of, like, radioed in, and it just tells you, like, hey, this mission sucks because it's really bad. It's like you have to go up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down this corridor. Just, you open a door, and then the door has, it's like this corridor that just stretches super far north and super far south, and you're in the very middle. You open a door below you, you go into that room, you open the door that's like 2 rooms above you now, and you just go back and forth. It's basically like a troll level, essentially. So you get, like, radioed in from someone who tells you, like, hey, this sucks, let's do a different one. And then it ends up taking you on this weird, like, this person who, like, I thought was one character but might not be, taking you on this, like, mission to basically, quote unquote, pull a prank on people from, like, the simulation department. Then turns into this, like, whole weird thing where it's like, wait, what am I doing? Who am I doing this for? You'll get emails, which is how you get all your missions. You'll get emails from people who are just like, you can just do random missions for them. You don't know who they are. And then it turns out that they're, like, from the company, maybe, but you don't know. And it was like a test in a certain way. It's definitely, like, fucking with you in a, like, you never quite know what's going on. It's very obtuse and, dare I say, Kafkaesque. Probably not. It's probably an incorrect use of Kafkaesque. But, like, it's what would I... One of those just sort of mysteries where, like, you don't quite know what's going on. It's very vague and enigmatic. It's sort of neat. So I'm doing missions, and at some point I'm like, wait, am I... Like, I have an option to kill a character or not, who's not hostile to me. And I'm like, I don't want to kill them, because they seem chill. And then they end up betraying me as soon as I leave the room. And I'm like, awesome, great. All these, like, very immersive sim decisions. Like, God, I remember in Deus Ex, I don't want to spoil it, but there's basically an entire character death that you can prevent by just killing a specific NPC. Not even like a named NPC, just this one specific NPC who's a little suspicious. You can just kill them and prevent a character from dying in the story like hours later. Literally like 20 hours later in the game. It's that I don't know if that quite extensive, but just that sort of like you get a lot of like decisions, and it makes you kind of question the limits. Immersive sims are a great sort of genre for that kind of a story, because it's a genre that makes you question the limits of what you as the player can do. What are the limits of interacting with the world and affecting the story? And it's one of those like kind of question everything type of things. And it's great for stories or settings where you don't quite know what's possible. Maybe I could kill him. Maybe I should. Maybe I can do this or that. Maybe I have some kind of there's some sort of weird obscure thing, like I'm going to finish the game and then I'm going to go find a video of someone in like mission 3 doing this thing I never would have even thought was possible, and then finding this secret that sets off this whole like little mini storyline. I'll be like, what the fuck? That kind of thing. Is that in this game? I have no idea, but that's kind of what's fun about it. Again, it feels very solid. Like there's just stuff that happens that I'm like, oh, what's going on? I don't know. Like characters will just show up. There's just sort of like weird kind of foreboding things. Like there's corpses in your apartment one time when I visit. I think they're corpses. It's great. The vibe, the atmosphere, the gameplay is really fun. It has all these like heavy. If you like games with problem solving that test your problem solving skills under duress, this is a great game for you, because I ended up approaching a lot of these missions like they were puzzles, where I figured out a way that I kind of wanted to go about the mission. And then I tried to figure out, okay, how do I actually pull this off from both like a decision making, like what steps should I take and when? What's the most efficient? How do I, incur the least amount of penalties? How do I risk the least to do it this way? And at the same time, having like an actual like combat sort of action element to it to sort of keep you on your toes. Really cool. Apparently you can hack bullets in this game. I have not done that yet, but apparently you can. Oh, and there's like a Matrix slowdown mode you can go into. You have like a resource. It's called like slug. You can go into slug mode. I haven't used it a ton, but it's cool. Some of the guns feel real. I love like the bolt weapons that are just like, it's like basically like little snipers. They're really fun. Yeah, I don't know. It's very extensive. If you watch the stream, I spent a lot of time. I spent like the first kind of half of that just kind of trying to wrap my head around the game. But once I did, just reading, like, it has an in-game wiki, which is always a good sign. Just like explain basic game mechanics and stuff like that. And once I kind of got my head around the basics, I was more familiar with how the hacking worked, and I was able to kind of do it. You physically hack, like you type commands in. You aren't just picking them off of a list. I feel like it would have been easy to just do click on the thing that you want to hop into, get the I'm sure that there's totally a way to do this with like a graphical interface, but there's something kind of fun about, and I'm sure someone, this would be a great game to have mods for, like modding ability, because I'm sure someone would make a mod that just gives, a visual interface to all the different hacking options that you can do. But like part of the fun is for physically typing the commands into the prompt. It's really cool. So yeah, once I kind of got the hang of all that, it becomes super smooth. Like the game just plays really, really well. Hacking stuff, and then like I had a situation where I hacked into like an enemy who then like basically like they detected me and then started running at me, and right before they get to me with like their big damage melee weapon, I was like, oh fuck, I like hit tab to open up the prompt again, and I just typed kill, and it made them self-destruct like an inch from being able to kill me. And like that stuff is fun. That stuff is really cool. I was expecting a lot more bugs, because they said expect bugs, and it's early access and everything. But I did not encounter any bugs as far as I know. Maybe there's something, but nothing that was obviously a bug. Maybe something that the developer would look at and go, oh, that's not supposed to work like that. But to me, I didn't notice it, and there was nothing game breaking to me. No crashes, no weird glitchiness as far as I could tell. Pretty solid. The only criticism I would have is really kind of surface level stuff. I like in the menus, I don't like how when you mouse over an item, so the text is white, right? When you mouse over an item, the whole, like, what would you call it, the block, that whole item in the list, the whole listing becomes white. Excuse me. Is there a term for that? Like the segments of a list, where it'll be like, hey, this is the name of the weapon, here's the cost, here's like some quick notes about its stats and stuff like that. That whole UI element. With the text is white, when you mouse over it, the whole thing becomes white, and it basically gets you can't read it. You have to click on it to look at the stats then. And I found that kind of annoying. I wish that it just inverted. I talked about this on the stream because I immediately kind of picked that out. I wish that the text would just invert color to like a black when you mouse over it, because when I'm mousing down a list of things, visually, so that I can, when I'm looking down a list, visually, I want to have some kind of distinction, so that my eyes, I'm not like, my eyes don't get jumbled up in a big list with a bunch of information. So having like a little light up, a little prompt thing, or just some kind of color change to indicate that it's moused over. I mean, that's why that kind of feedback is important, and it's important for me at least, for scrolling through a list. And I visually want my eyes to follow where my mouse cursor is going. Because I want everything to be, I want to be following it with my cursor, basically. And when it whites out, I can't do that, and it's kind of obnoxious. Not game-breaking at all. It's just like, I would change that. Just a little quality of life thing, just a little usability thing. It also warns that at the start of the game that it might have some things that could trigger people with photosensitive epilepsy. So I put that in the title of my stream, and actually the entire time I never ran into a single thing that I think would have caused it. I guess it's fine to include that warning, but I wouldn't be too freaked out about it myself if I was photosensitive. A photosensitive epileptic. I mean, those are really like my only complaints. Like I'm really enjoying the game. It's quite good. It's an early access game, which unfortunately, have a bad rep, and understandably so. And there's obviously, there's a reason for it. But this is genuinely a game that I think even in early access, even in build 0.6.9.8.7, whatever it's on, I think is totally worth checking out. At least check out the demo. And I cannot wait for more content to be added. Apparently there's like an entire roguelike built into the game. There's like a practice thing that you can go into from the menu, and one of the modes in the practice thing it's called like rogue something, like rogue agent or something like that. And it's literally just like, hey, randomly generated missions. I didn't try it out. Maybe that's super buggy. But like, because I was looking at it, I'm like, this game, like because like I could see just like a level editor for this game being like so, not easy, but like it's such a no-brainer almost. Like a level, like a map editor where people can make custom missions, It already has like an optional missions thing from like you can go to like a bulletin board service from your computer and then accept optional missions for extra money. And like people making like user created missions, user created like mission packs, because it's just it's just making geometry, and then there's all these different stage elements. When I say geometry, lines, making rooms and stuff like that, placing characters. It's like, yeah, just the potential for like user generated content and even randomly generated content. Obviously, maybe you'd need some sophisticated thing to keep it, not being a total mess, but that's all roguelikes, Man, this game has so much potential and probably a bunch that I haven't even seen yet. I'm super into it, so go check it out. It'll be linked down below. I'll link the Steam page. It's Deadeye Deepfake Simulacrum by the developer No Day Shall Escape You. So shout out to them.